We would now welcome our guest speaker, who is a writer. He writes prose, poem, and also essays. We'll now welcome on stage no other person but Ojecho Edache. Let's put our hands together for Ojecho Edache.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very much happy to be here. And I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. I'm pleased with everyone seated here. It's a big prospect to have people to listen to you. I like this platform I'm given to tell my own experiences as a child growing up. And if you ask me what will be the title of my talk today, I would say my experiences growing up in a small town that wasn't a small town as a child. And my experiences as a child growing up could be, for a lack of a better term, bittersweet. Because growing up in a town like the one I grew up in can be described as serene or tranquil, nor peaceful. There were times that it would be chaotic and enveloped with tension and fear. Thinking back now, it feels like there's still a hollow of all that fear in my chest, like a heavy lump in my throat. Inasmuch as my experiences as a child growing up is marred by some horrible experiences, it can be honestly said that in the same town, I had my best experiences as well. I like to describe the town of my childhood as small, dusty, and interesting. It utterly smelled of dust, gari, divinity, and blood. I can still remember my decades, at least two, of harmattans in that town that the earth becomes hard, cracked, and is dusty. Heavy dry air would fill the place. I remember me and my family members processing gari for sales. On market days, you would see the whole place occupied with bags and bags of gari. I can still remember the big trucks we called gwongworo, loaded with these bags of gari and taken to the east. I can still remember the stories we heard as children of a young girl from a small village that the Virgin Mary appeared to. I remember how fascinated I was that the Virgin Mary could appear to someone from our own locality. I remember fantasizing about it and tirelessly tried to live a good Christian life so that I have one of the heavenly bodies visit me. I'm older now, and you can imagine why I have not had that privilege. I don't want to talk about the blood ascribed to my town because talking about it would awaken memories that had been long put to bed. There are still pictures of boys hacked to death in broad daylight, or being shot, or beaten, of family men and women which were molested and harassed, some killed, some kidnapped, some raped. But I shall not like to dwell on such experiences, but maybe some other time or in some other place, at least not here. I am the son of two distinguishable parents, a civil servant and a trader that were also full-time farmers. And through their distinct parenting of these two people, I've learned other experiences that I would like to talk about. I learned very early on in life, as a child, about gender equality. My parents gave their children equal opportunities and privileges in life despite gender. My female siblings received equal education as my male siblings. I know of many females that had to give up their schooling for their male siblings simply for the fact that they are females and would soon be married out. I know of a young couple that the husband have refused the wife the chance to further her education for the simple and ridiculous fact, I don't want her to attain same level of education as me. There are other prejudices against women that I have learned very early on in life as a child without even knowing the term for it. I would later grow up to know there was a movement called feminism. I was having a chat with my father about some customs in our place, especially in regards to adultery. How on earth would an offense for one gender not be an offense for the other gender? In such cases, you would hear, "We are men, it is our nature." That is a ridiculous justification for unfairness. Come to think of it, if a woman commits adultery, she must go through a ritual cleansing to keep her chaste for her husband again. But when a man commits adultery, it's normal and it's not an offense. You can imagine the guts of we men when in the Bible, a case of a woman caught committing adultery is reported to Jesus. The report was, "We caught her committing adultery and she is to be stoned to death according to the law." Now, to be rational, where was the man she was caught committing adultery with? Why should only the woman be stoned and the man be spared? Who made those laws? Men. Who defaults? Both men and women. Who gets punished? The woman. I find it very ridiculous when a female can't have a share of her father's properties when the male siblings do. You would hear things like, "Her home is not here, but at her husband's. She does not own right to her father's lands or houses or any material properties," as if legally and naturally she is not a biological child of a said father as much as the male siblings. Such malicious traditions and customs against women needs to be reformed because it derogates the very existence of the other gender. I am a part-time secondary school teacher. I teach English language and literature in English. And when I teach my students essays, I give them topics like, "The girl child is as important as the boy child to write on." And when it comes to recommendation of texts, I would recommend texts by Buchi Emecheta, Chika Onigwe, and Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And the essays we would look at in classes together, I would usually end it with, "Who says a boy shouldn't cook, sweep, or wash plates? Who says a girl can't have a share of her biological father's properties?" There are other malicious traditions, but one thing I'm proud of my parents for was raising us the way they did. There was no disparities which unconsciously have made me learn how to cook, which is something both gender should do, and have made me aware that both genders can do house chores and as well as own rights to their father's properties. Growing up as a child in my small dusty town, I remember having almost an all-boys crop of friends, which made me aware later on in life about these stereotypes with boys not being platonic with friends. You can only shake hands, and in the case of sharing a room, either one is likely to vacate the bed to use the couch or sleep on the floor. Else, anything other than this, you risk being labeled. I remember as children, my friends and I would cluster on our neighbors' windows to watch Nigerian films or going out to play corridor football or climbing over trees, cashew and mango to play hide and seek in treetops, swinging from one branch to the other like monkeys, or to pluck these fruits to eat. I remember losing hold of one of the branches one time and falling down, hitting all branches on my way down and nearly losing my front teeth. I remember being ridden on wheelbarrows downhill to the streams to fetch water. It was scary yet fun, as these wheelbarrows were without brakes, and the pusher will go downhill on speed and let loose, and for you to be stopped either by the bushes or by anything up front, depending on whichever way the wheelbarrow turned. Only God knows how many injuries we sustained from such reckless fun. The town of my childhood is still what it is, even in present day. Maybe less chaotic or tensed, but it is what it still is. It's still dusty, it still smelled of gari, it still smelled of blood, and people troop in on pilgrimage to the small village the Virgin Mary appeared to a little girl years ago. My town of childhood, though very small, but it was for things like this that make people refer to it as small Lagos. Despite all these experiences, some horrible, some memorable, it was in the same town I met my one true best friend. Bless him. Thank you very much, and God bless.